Good morning. So, right now, you know that today we're not doing anything unless you have schoolwork to catch up on. So, instead, I want you to vote on which book that you want to be our very first read aloud. Um, it is going to be one of these chapter books. And one more. Oops, wrong way. Sorry. There we go. So, I will read a little bit about each book, and then you can comment on this video, or you can record yourself saying which one you would rather have. You can type which one you would rather have. It doesn't matter. But let me know, and whoever has the most votes, that's which one we'll do first. And but it's okay because the rest of these they'll go back into the pot for when we finish the first one. Okay. So, first book, Wayside School is Falling Down by Louis Sacker. The back says, "Get a full serving of wackiness at Wayside School. Yum! Miss Mush is dishing out her famous mushroom surprise in the Wayside School cafeteria. Ron says it tastes like hot dogs and grape jelly. Clean your plate and you'll turn green in time for class. Picture day. Wear your craziest outfit and you'll fit right in between Mauricia and her striped bikini and Calvin, who's wearing his birthday tattoo. Say cheese!" More than 6 million kids have laughed at the wacky stories of Wayside School. So, there are 30 long chapters in here. And this first one, I'll read the first part, okay? So you can get familiar with how it is. So, chapter 1, a package for Mrs. Jules. Louis, the yard teacher, frowned. The schoolyard was a mess. There were pencils and pieces of paper everywhere. How'd all this junk get here, he wondered. Well, I'm not going to pick it up. It wasn't his job to pick up the garbage. He was just supposed to pass out the balls during lunch and recess. And also make sure the kids didn't kill each other. He sighed, then began cleaning it up. He loved all the children at Wayside School. He didn't want them playing on a dirty playground. As he was picking up the pencils and pieces of paper, a large truck drove into the parking lot. It honked its horn twice, then twice more. Louis ran to the truck. "Quiet," he whispered. "Children are trying to learn in here." He pointed at the school. A short man with big bushy hair stepped out of the truck. "I have a package for somebody named Mrs. Jules," he said. So that's just the beginning. I don't want to give too much away. Next one, Charlotte's Web. Wilbur, this is by E.B. White. Wilbur was lovingly raised by a girl named Fern, but now he's a barn pig. He's bored and lonely until he meets Charlotte, a beautiful gray spider who also lives in the barn. Charlotte thinks of a wonderful way to save Wilbur from a pig's unhappy fate. Her clever plan will delight you in this famous story. So, before breakfast, chapter 1. "Where's Papa going with that axe?" said Fern to her mother as they were setting out the table for breakfast. "Out to the hog house," replied Mrs. Arable. "Some pigs were born last night." "I don't see why he needs an axe," continued Fern, who was only 8. "Well," said her mother, "one of the pigs is a runt. It's a very small and weak pig, and it will never amount to anything. So your father has decided to do away with it." "Do away with it?" shrieked Fern. "You mean kill it just because it's smaller than the others?" Mrs. Arable put a pitcher of cream on the table. "Don't yell, Fern," she said. "Your father is right. The pig would probably die anyways." Fern pushed a chair out of the way and ran outdoors. The grass was wet and the earth smelled of springtime. Fern's sneakers were sopping by the time she caught up with her father. "Please don't kill it," she sobbed. "It's unfair." Mr. Arable stopped walking. "Fern," he said gently, "you will have to learn to control yourself." "Control myself!" yelled Fern. "This is a matter of life and death, and you talk about controlling myself?" So that is just the first page of Charlotte's Web. That's one of my favorites. Next one, Tale of Despereaux. All right, there's no little back part. The Tale of Despereaux being the story of a mouse, a princess, some soup, and a spool of thread. This is by Kate D. Camillo, and it is a Newbery Medal winner book. Are these? No. Okay. So this is the first book. So there are 3 books in here. The first one is called A Mouse is Born. This is chapter 1, the last one. The story begins within the walls of a castle with the birth of a small mouse, the last mouse born to his parents and the only one of his litter to be born alive. "Where are my babies?" said the exhausted mother when the ordeal was through. Show to me my babies." The father mouse held one small mouse up high. "There is only this one," he said. "The others are dead." "Just the one mouse baby?" "Just the one." "Will you name him?" "All of that work for nothing," said the mother. She sighed. "It is so sad. It is such the disappointment." She was a French mouse who had arrived at the castle long ago in the luggage of a visiting French diplomat. Disappointment was one of her favorite words. She used it often. "Will you name him?" repeated the father. "Will I name him? Will I name him? Of course I will name him, but he will only die like the others. Oh, so sad. Oh, such the tragedy." The mouse mother held a handkerchief up to her nose and then waved it in front of her face. She sniffed. "I will name him, yes. I will name this mouse Despereaux, for all the sadness, for all the many despairs in this place. Now where is my mirror?" I love this story. This is the Tale of Despereaux. So your choices so far: Wayside School is Falling Down, Charlotte's Web, and the Tale of Despereaux. Oh, this is going to be a long video. So sorry. Okay, next one. This is a Newbery Honor book, and it's Ramona Quimby, age 8. A lot of you either are 8 or will be turning 8 soon. On the back, it says, "Everything depends on Ramona." Ramona's job is to be nice to fussy Mrs. Kemp, who watches her while her mother works. If Mrs. Quimby didn't work, Mr. Quimby couldn't return to college. On top of all that, 3rd grade isn't turning out as Ramona expected. Danny the yard ape teases her, and on one horrible day, she throws up at school. Being 8 isn't easy, but it's never dull. So here's the beginning. Ramona Quimby, age 8. First day of school, chapter 1. Ramona Quimby hoped her parents would forget to give her all the little talkings to. She did not want anything to spoil this exciting day. "Ha ha, I get to ride the bus to school all by myself," Ramona bragged to her big sister, Beatrice, at breakfast. Her stomach felt quivery with excitement at the day ahead, and a day that would begin with a bus ride just like the right length to make her feel a long way from home, but not long enough, she hoped, to make her feel carsick. Ramona was going to ride the bus because changes had been made in the schools in the Quimby's part of the city during the summer. Glenwood, the girls' old school, had become an intermediate school, which meant Ramona had to go to Cedarhurst Primary School. "Ha ha yourself," Beezus was too excited to be annoyed with her little sister. "Today, I start high school." That's Ramona Quimby, age 8. Who wants to read that one first? Next one, The Borrowers. This one is by Mary Norton. The Borrowers. Underneath the kitchen floor is the world of the Borrowers. Pod, Homily Clock, and their daughter Arietti in their tiny home, matchboxes double as roomy dressers, and postage stamps hang on the walls like paintings. Whatever the clocks needed, they simply borrow from the human beings who live above them. It's a comfortable life. comfortable but boring if you're a kid. Only Pod is allowed to venture into the house above because the danger of being seen by a human is too great. Borrowers who are seen by humans are never seen again. Yet Arietti won't listen. There is a human boy up there, and Arietti is desperate for a friend. But then Arietti is seen. Suddenly it seems everyone in the household is after the borrowers, except the one person who can help them. And so the desperate clocks must trust their fates to the most dreaded of creatures, a human being. So this won the Carnegie Medal, the Lewis Carroll Shelf Award book, and the ALA Distinguished Book. This was a big award winner. Alright. Here we go, Chapter 1. It was Mrs. May who first told me about them. No, not me. How could it have been me, a wild, untidy, self-willed little girl who stared with angry eyes and was said to crunch her teeth? Kate, she should have been called. Yes, that was it, Kate. Not that the name matters much either way. She barely comes into the story. Mrs. May lived in 2 rooms in Kate's parents' house in London. She was, I think, some kind of relation. Her bedroom was on the first floor, and her sitting room was a room which, as part of the house, was called the breakfast room. Now, the breakfast rooms are all right in the morning, and the sun streams in on the toast and the marmalade, but by afternoon they seem to vanish a little, and to fill in with strange silvery light, their own twilight. There is a kind of sadness in them, but as a child it was a sadness Kate liked. She would creep into Mrs. May just before tea time, and Mrs. May would teach her to crochet. Mrs. May was old, her joints were stiff, and she was not strict exactly, but she had that inner certainty which does instead. Kate was never wild with Mrs. May, nor untidy, nor self-willed, and Mrs. May taught her many things besides crochet: how to wind wool into an egg-shaped ball, how to run and fell and plan a darn, how to tidy a drawer, and to lay like a blessing above the contents, the sheet of rustling tissue against the dust. "Where's your work, child?" asked Mrs. May one day when Kate sat hunched and silent upon the hassock. "You mustn't sit there dreaming. Have you lost your tongue?" "No," said Kate, pulling her shoe button. "I've lost the crochet hook." They were making a bed quilt in woolen squares. There were 30 still to do. "I know where I put it," she went on hastily. "I put it on the bottom shelf of the bookcase, just beside my bed." "On the bottom shelf?" repeated Mrs. May, her own needle flicking steadily in the firelight. "Near the floor?" "Yes," said Kate, "but I looked on the floor, under the rug, everywhere. The wool was still there, though, just where I left it." "Oh dear," exclaimed Mrs. May lightly. "Don't say they're in this house, too." I wonder, that's the borrowers. I wonder who she's talking about. And finally, The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. This one is by Kate DiCamillo also. Yeah, just like The Tale of Despereaux. Same author. Alright. So this one says, "There once lived a China rabbit named Edward Tulane. The rabbit couldn't move or speak, but he could watch and listen, and he was very pleased with himself, his owner, and his house. And then, one day, he was lost." So let's read this first page. This is a great way to check out books. If you're unsure, you read the first few pages in the back and see if you're sucked in. "Once in a house on Egypt Street, there lived a rabbit who was made almost entirely of china. He had china arms and china legs, china paws and a china head, and a china torso and a china nose. His arms and legs were jointed by wire so that his china elbows and his china knees could be bent, giving him much freedom of his movement. So china means like if you have a teacup is made out of china. It's very fancy and very breakable like glass. His ears were made of real rabbit fur, and beneath the fur there were strong bendable wires, which allowed the ears to be arranged into poses that reflect the rabbit's mood. Jaunty, tired. His tail, too, was made of rabbit fur and was fluffy and soft and well-shaped. The rabbit's name was Edward Tulane, and he was tall. He measured almost 3 feet from the tip of his ears to the tip of his feet. His eyes were painted a penetrating and intelligent blue. In awe, Edward Tulane felt himself to be an exceptional specimen. Only his whiskers gave him pause. They were long and elegant, as they should be, but they were of uncertain origin. Edward felt quite strongly that they were not the whiskers of a rabbit, whom the whiskers had belonged to initially. What an unsavory animal was a question that Edward could not bear to consider for long, and so he did not. He preferred, as a rule, not to think unpleasant thoughts. Edward's mistress was a 10-year-old, dark-haired girl named Abilene Tulane, who thought almost as highly of Edward as Edward thought of himself. Each morning, after she dressed herself for school, Abilene dressed Edward. The china rabbit was in possession of an extraordinary wardrobe composed of handmade silk suits, custom shoes fashioned from the finest leather and designed specifically for his rabbit feet, and a wide array of hats equipped with holes so that they could easily fit over Edward's large, expressive ears. Each pair of well-cut pants had a small pocket for Edward's gold pocket watch. Abilene would wound this watch for him each morning. "Now, Edward," she said to him after she was done winding the watch, "when the big hand is on the 12 and the little hand is on the 3, I will come home to you." She placed Edward on the dining room chair and positioned the chair so that Edward was looking out the window and could see the path that led to the Tulane front door. Abilene balanced the watch on his left leg, she kissed the tips of his ears, and then she left, and Edward spent the day staring out at Egypt Street, listening to the tick of his watch and waiting. So that was the miraculous journey of Edward Tulane. So, to recap, you have to pick one book to read first. First one, Wayside School's Falling Down by Louis Sachar. Second one, Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Third one, Tale of Despereaux by Kate DiCamillo. Fourth one, Ramona Quimby, age 8. Fifth one, that's by Beverly Cleary. I didn't say that, Beverly Cleary. The Borrowers by Mary Norton. And the last one, Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane by Kate DiCamillo. You get to pick. Which one will you choose?